we'll get into my tips now. So this week, and I'll put my brother's tips on the next to it. My tips this week, I've picked Geelong to beat Geelong to beat Carlton on Thursday night. I think like Geelong just had a bit of an off week in the first round, which is fair enough. So I think they'll bounce back against Carlton, and Carlton off to not the best start with a draw and a loss if that happens. I'm going to pick Geelong to beat Carlton. Next game, Brisbane versus Melbourne at the Gabba. I think Melbourne will win this game. They're getting actually 4 of their players back this week. Fritsch, Viney, Salem, and I think another one. I think it's Stephen May. So with all those players back, I think they'll be able to back up against Brisbane and go 2-0. And Brisbane are going to be in a bit of trouble if they don't win this game, because being 0-2 in the first part of the season, it's not going to. I don't think they'll miss finals by any chance, but it's not a good start for a team that was, expected to make finals. Now, it was expected to compete for a premiership. Now, this is actually going to be my game for the week. So, if you guys missed it last week, we actually did 2 live streams for 2 games, but I'm trying to at least guarantee 1 live stream a week. And this week, the game of the week will be Brisbane versus Melbourne. Now, on the left-hand side now, I'll be putting up the Jackpot Junkies multi for the week, so you can have a look at that now. So I will be live streaming this game. It starts at 7:20 here in South Australia, so Australian Central Standard Time. I think that's what they say. We'll just look up Adelaide time if you have to. I'll be live then on this channel, live streaming the game. I think it was pretty fun to do it. I was actually a little bit nervous to do live streaming for AFL, but I thought it was actually quite fun. Basically just commentated the game, which I thought was fun. And not so much the second game. The first game, a couple of people joined in and seemed to enjoy it. So yeah, if you do I don't know, even if you want to watch the game and put it on mute and listen to me, you can do that. I think that's kind of fun to do. But yeah, I'm picking Melbourne to beat Brisbane in this game. Next game, we have Collingwood versus Port Adelaide. This one's probably going to be the hardest one to pick of the week because Port Adelaide plays so well against Brisbane. It's going to be hard. I don't know if they can back it up. But then Collingwood played brilliantly against Geelong. So I'm picking Collingwood to beat Port Adelaide because it's at the MCG. I think it'll be an interesting game. We'll see if Port Adelaide can back it up. If they can back it up, as well as they played against Brisbane, I give them a good chance of beating Collingwood. But for now, I'm picking Collingwood purely on the fact that it's at the MCG. After that, we get to the Crows versus Richmond. This is actually a hard game because Richmond didn't look that good against Carlton. I think they should have beaten them, but they didn't look exactly that convincing for a lot of the game. And the Crows, if they can keep the form they did in the first half against the GWS, I think they can beat Richmond. But the second half performance against the Giants was not very good looking for the Crows. So I'm going to be picking Richmond. And at Adelaide Oval, I do give the Crows a bit more of a chance, but I'm going to be picking Richmond just purely on the fact that I trust Richmond a little bit more. So next game is actually going to be my certainty pick of the week, which is the fact that I'm going to be picking the Bulldogs, who lost last week to beat St Kilda. Now, I'm not exactly confident on it because I had the Bulldogs pick last week and they didn't do very well. So, but I am going to pick them to bounce back against the Saints. I think the Saints got incredibly, not lucky, but I just don't see the Saints going 2-0 here just because of the fact that I don't think Ross Lyon can keep the midfield of the Bulldogs under wraps. I think the Bulldogs can dominate St Kilda in the midfield and then take over this game. So my certainty pick this week is Bulldogs to beat St Kilda. Next game, we get Fremantle versus North Melbourne. I think this is pretty standard. Even though Fremantle lost their first game, they're not going to lose two, especially just because this is in Perth. They'll beat North Melbourne pretty comfortably. And that is my brother's certainty pick, actually. Pretty sure, yeah. So he picked Fremantle to beat North Melbourne. That's why I didn't pick it, because he was picking first this week. He picked Fremantle versus North Melbourne. I would have been picking that game, obviously, but I feel like he's got that wrapped up pretty easily. Fremantle to beat North Melbourne, pretty easy one. Next game, first game on Sunday, will be Sydney versus Hawthorn. I've picked Sydney. I don't see a way that Hawthorn can win this game, considering how young they are. I feel like Sydney would just dominate them in the midfield. Yeah, so it's SCG as well, so I'm going to be picking Sydney. After that, we have Essendon versus Gold Coast. I do give Gold Coast a bit of a chance here because I think Stuart Dew's going to be pretty ropeable about how they played against the Swans. But at this stage, am going to be picking Essendon just because it's in Melbourne. But I think if the Gold Coast can definitely bounce back and in the midfield as well, and their forward line's got to look like they want it, then I can give Gold Coast a good shot here. But for now, I'm picking the Bombers. And finally, the last game of the round is West Coast versus the Giants in Optus. I give West Coast a bit of a chance because it is in Perth, and I think you always have to give the Perth team a chance when they're playing over there. But the Giants look good in that second half, and I'm going to be picking the Giants. Just how well they played. Now, let's be honest, the first couple of rounds, I don't think can decipher the top 8. I don't think the Giants are going to make the top 8, even though they may win their first 2 games. I don't think Essendon are going to make the 8, even though they may win their first 2 games. I think Brisbane can still make the 4, even though they may lose their first 2 games. So, I don't think it's chucked too many odd predictions of the whole season out of order. But I do think that the first couple of rounds could look a little bit different on the ladder compared to maybe mid-year. But I think that's actually a pretty good stop there. Yeah, so just to reiterate, my certainty pick for this week is the Bulldogs to beat St Kilda, and my brother's certainty pick this week is for Fremantle to beat North Melbourne.